I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which my studio stands, the Wurundjeri, Woiwurrung and Bunurong people of the Kulin Nation. I'd like to pay my respects to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, their elders past, present and emerging, this nation's first creatives and art makers. Are we ready? Are we ready? Let's do this! Hello and welcome to the studio. My name's Liz Gridley and I'm a realist oil painter from Melbourne. And today we're here to talk everything Portrait Artist of the Year, Australia. As an oil painter and as a neurodivergent person, I am constantly looking for things that I can watch, interact with, listen to, audiobooks, all the things, whilst I paint. I'm here in the studio. I'm constantly needing extra stimulation so that I can focus on what I do. And what's one thing that I come back to all the time? Oh, you bet. It's competitive reality TV show games based on creative industries. So I wanted to do a little bit of deep dive on the show, specifically Portrait Artist of the Year, and tell you a little bit about it, because coming up very shortly, we have Portrait Artist of the Year Australia Season 2. Why would you start with Season 2? I've got the trailer running here. I don't know why I would start with Season 2. There might be a little reason somewhere around Episode 5. I might have a little bit more I can talk about. But for now, here on YouTube, this is the place where we can talk all day about that fun stuff. Let's get into it. Portrait Artist of the Year. It was first a British TV show brought out by Sky Arts channel back in 2013. And it only started with 6 episodes in its first season. I absolutely watched it the first time I could here in Australia. I think it took a while to get here because we're Australia. We're, geographically very different part of the world, despite the fact the internet was a thing in 2013. Either way, distribution and all that, we always get things late. But when I did start watching it, when I was able to first watch it, I think it was on Foxtel, which was like our paid cable service. Oh my gosh, did I devour it and watch that first season so many times, and I love it. Let's start talking again broadly about the show. So in its very first year, which was 2013 when it came out in Britain, under the Sky Arts channel, they only had 6 episodes in the first season, which is nowhere near enough episodes to get to know artists, much less lots of artists and what they do and how they paint. But we'll get into all that. The show was a huge influence on the creative arts reality TV show, sphere, specifically because I feel it has a very different mood and feel to some of the other really popular shows that came before it. So when I was trying to rank who were the first reality TV show creative industry shows, we sort of start around American Idol, 2002, and then after that you've quickly got America's Next Top Model, 2003, and then Project Runway, 2004. Project Runway is probably the closer one in terms of the model, but you can see after that we get heaps and heaps and heaps of different niche art shows. Niche. I think I always say niche, but niche sounds like Neesch.
It is of French origin, and in French said as niche.
Little cool things that some people are interested in and more people should get to know. And that ultimately comes down to why I think these shows are quite fun, because they are looking at an industry that is often behind closed doors. They're looking at creatives who are often isolated in their studios, in their processes, and it brings a tiny little glimpse of what they do to the masses. And it puts it in a really entertaining, performative context, and particularly with this show, it sort of crosses over with celebrity culture. And that, again, is broadly appealing. The show is produced by Endemol Shine, and they huge in the genre of reality TV. They pioneered reality TV shows such as so in general, in Australia in particular, they are the kings of this genre. They know the formats, they know the entertainment value, they know the appeal, they know what they're doing. We got our first season of Portrait Artist of the Year Australia last year in 2025, and now we've got our second one. Endemol Shine Australia is based up in Sydney, so all the production happened up in Sydney. So to look at the structure of how the competition is going to work in Portrait Artist Australia, which will differ slightly from the British series, particularly because the British model has experimented a bit more in the past few years, and the Australian model being a new TV show and last year being a pilot in 2025, I think a more restricted budget may have been in play, and that means that the format is slightly more streamlined, shall we say. Let's have a look at the bracket. Okay, so the way this one works is it's not a round robin. God, I really need to know sporting terms for this part, don't I? Either way, we start with heats. We have 6 heats. Of those heats, you have 9 artists per episode, and one of the artists is then chosen to go through to the semi-final. Semi-final's the next layer. All 6 of those artists, or potentially an extra wildcard artist, as happened in season 1, get to compete together, and then 3 of those are selected to go through to the grand final. Grand final has those 3 artists compete, and the final winner wins the series prize, which is to paint a commission for the National Portrait Gallery here in Canberra, Australia, our capital city. That is an amazing prize. It is a paid prize, so obviously you'll receive the commission money to create the artwork for the gallery, and then it will hang and be part of the collection at the National Gallery in Canberra, which, huge. Ugh. Such a good prize. The artist that wins does not know who they will be painting as part of the commission, but the National Portrait Gallery in Australia has a big emphasis on obviously honouring really influential, amazing, inspiring Australians. So you know it's going to be someone local and someone lovely. Let's go through to how the actual show works episode by episode. We've got some key players to introduce, and let's have a look at the cast. So each episode, we've got our main cast. We've got 2 hosts and 3 judges. Our 2 hosts are Miranda Tapsell, Australian darling actress, Indigenous Australian, absolutely glowing sunshine of a human being. And we also have Luke McGregor, who's an Australian comedian, who's honestly is that kind of awkward comedy that's just so fun, like an awkward uncle. I really enjoyed his performances on Australian Taskmaster. If anyone's into Taskmaster, that's another one of the shows I watch on the side and watch way too much of. All of the British seasons, all of the Australian seasons. I'm catching up on my New Zealand seasons right now. You know, we get through the hours here in the studio. It's fine. Yeah, so they're our hosts, and they just sort of guide the show to make sure it keeps flowing. They do things like explaining the rules. They do things like interacting with different people just to help stimulate conversation and keep the viewer going with the journey. After that, we've got our 3 judges. Now, the judges are important because not only do they decide which artist wins, but the whole way through they are constantly talking about why they selected the artists to compete in this particular season. They're talking about what the artists are doing, their different techniques. They're interacting with the artists. They're also interacting with the sitters for the portraits. And then at the end of every episode, they are judging. They are going through the works and figuring out what is the most important values that they want to emphasize and what are the features that they are looking for that they want to reward and have that person go through to the next round. Here in Australia, our 3 judges are Bree Pickering, the director of the National Portrait Gallery in Canberra. We've got multidisciplinary artist Abdul Abdallah. And our 3rd judge is the Associate Professor of Art History at the Australian National University, Robert Wellington. Sorry, that's a really long one to say. The Associate Professor of Art History at the Australian National University. Robert Wellington is absolutely fabulous. You will definitely notice him every time he's on screen because he has a huge love of fashion. In particular, I think he's a collector of, British designer. British designer who's really cool, who likes plaid. It's all in my brain. I promise it's all in my brain. It's just I can't access it when I want it. It was Vivienne Westwood. It's Vivienne Westwood, and you can tell from half the outfits he wears. So that's a little bit about our main cast. So the judges hang out for the whole episode, every episode, and they sort of drift in and out of being either with the painters, with the sitters, or with the hosts, or out on their own finding a cool little place to powwow and talk about stuff. But it's really nice the way we get to hear all 3 of their voices. Obviously, they have 3 completely different pools of experience and 3 very different manners with how they talk to the artists, all completely lovely sounding. But yeah, they're 3 different voices so that they can have a cohesive group discussion about what they want to pick. Now that we've covered the cast, there's one other person we need to talk about before we talk about the artists, and that is The sitters. So a big part of the whole show of Portrait Artist of the Year is not only are the portrait artists painting someone, they're painting a celebrity someone. Sometimes they're a local celebrity, sometimes they're international, sometimes they're more known visually for like performance, film, acting, things like that. And sometimes they're people like authors or producers or directors or journalists or things like that. So I really enjoy how much in a lot of these shows they do pick sitters that are verbally interesting as well as visually distinctive. They don't have to be celebrities where we know their face and we know them, you know, from seeing them everywhere. It can be someone who's really interesting to talk to. So I like that in the show I have learned a lot about other people that I didn't necessarily know at first glance. All of the sitters are invited to bring a personal object, and that is often sat on a plinth next to them. The reason they get to bring a personal object is not only to sort of expand upon their personality, but it sort of gives them a little bit of creative coercion in the piece to sort of bring something of themselves that might not be immediately known. A lot of the artists might not know the sitter for whatever reason, age, demographic, culture, whatever. And so it's a little get to know you item. So some of the ones I remember from season 1 are things like a photo album or a object like a shell or things like that. So incorporating the object, they do leave it up to the artist if they want to incorporate the object or not, but it is something that's always sort of discussed. Hey, why did they do that? Why didn't they do that? And that's something that'll sort of come up. So it's sort of one extra little boop of difficulty, but it's part of the show. It's fun. It's something I hadn't seen in the British season, but I do believe they do bring it in at some point. So yeah, I'm talking about our last factor of the show, and that is the artists. Every heat has 9 artists to meet, and honestly, in the running time of the show, that's not a lot of time to get to know an artist and their work. We get to see one self-portrait they've done and then one piece they produce on the show. So a big part of the Portrait Artist of the Year show, obviously, is the format of how they get to do their piece. So when we're talking about they've got a sitter, they've got a portrait painter, how does it all work? They get 4 hours to paint their sitter. These sitters are not professional sitters. They are celebrities and they are not held to professional sitting standards. You will find some of the sitters really want to sit still and maintain the pose and maintain eyeline, and other sitters want to have a chat and wiggle around and have a dance and do the thing. I didn't actually know that they don't do similar to what we would do here in Australia, or at least here in Melbourne, with life drawing rules. So my normal experience with life drawing is that we have maximum of 20-minute sits with a 5-minute break or a 10-minute break, and then you have a big break in the middle of the day for lunch, that kind of thing. It's my understanding that through the show they do 2 hours-ish, then they have lunch, then they do another 2 hours-ish. So that's a big time to sit, and they sort of emphasize that a lot, and they'll talk through the show. Wow, 4 hours, how do you think you're going to do with that? That kind of thing. That makes a lot more sense to me now, because when you break down 4 hours into smaller bits, it seems a lot more achievable, and it's a lot kinder on the body for more interesting poses. All of the sitters in the Australian series are seated, just in a normal chair, so there's not a lot of interesting poses and stuff going on. There's a little bit you can do, and a lovely part of the show is that the artists are actually invited once it's all, you know, time starts now. The artists are invited to interact with the sitter, and they can sort of discuss what sort of pose they want to do, whether they want to work from a photo or photography, or whether they want to work from life. That is a slightly contentious part of the show. Obviously, a large part of my community that I'm a part of works from life, and a lot of people I talk to about the show are like, oh no, they can't take photos. That's really weird. Yuck. But when I think about it, the idea of everyone having to work from life is a very privileged position, because a lot of the artists on this show, and a lot of artists in general, never have the opportunity to work from life. It's something that only happens in built-up areas where you can have enough artists like invest in paying a model to work from life and then be able to do it consistently so that you can make that part of your practice. It's a privilege. Being able to work from photography is something that's incredibly accessible these days. A lot of junior artists who are junior artists of the last 20 to 30 years will have learned from photography, because it's something they can access, it's something they can get a printout, they can copy from a book, things like that. It's something that's feasible and easier to learn, and expecting someone to go on TV and suddenly work in a completely different way from how they normally work or how they work to make their self-portrait, that's not really fair. So kind of setting the ground rules here. I know I personally am an artist who likes working from life, but I think working from a photo is completely fine. And a big part about this show is us seeing how the artists work, how they make what they make. So by denying that and forcing them to change or wanting them to match a certain model of what we think an artist is or things like that, that would be unfair to the authenticity of the artists showing what they do. So yeah, a little bit soapboxy, sorry, but that's how I feel it goes. The sitter is sat. The artists have all come up, they've discussed how they're going to work, they've talked to the sitter and things like that. Then they get to get in working mode. All the artists sort of, you get the music beautifully ramping up and you get the tension building, and this is where it feels like body doubling in my studio because I'm watching this show and I'm watching them all work to a deadline, and then I'm like, I can paint to a deadline too. I can paint fast like you. Okay, let's see how much I can get done before the end of the episode. And that's a really fun dynamic of this style of show, I think, is that it does feel like you are working alongside other creatives and you can passively be part of that tension building fun music and learn a little bit about the sitters as well. So learn a bit about their stories. It's up, and then you finally get to the last 5 minutes and then you watch them all stress out and then they finish their painting. Your time is up. Then you get the big TV moments of all the artists getting to swing around their easels, reveal what they've done to the sitter's going, wow, and all that sort of thing. They definitely seem to preserve in this series that the sitters can't see the artwork until the end. In the early British series, some of the sitters would just get up and have a look, and that was fine, but it definitely seems to have become part of the TV model, is to preserve that surprise face, which is really fun. And then the sitter gets to have a look at all the pieces, discuss them all with the artists, and then the sitter gets to select one to keep, which is really nice. So the sitter does get to walk away with something, and that artist, of course, gets to go, yay, the sitter picked my piece. And the other two artists, that if the sitter selects the piece, it doesn't take it out of contention for continuing through the show. That's just like a side perk for the sitter. After that, we sort of say goodbye to the sitters, and it's all about listening to the judges talk about all the artworks that they got together and figure out who their top 3 for the episode is. And from that top 3, they then announce the winner of the episode, who will progress through the bracket. I think that's the show. I think we got there. So a little bit of a deep dive, a little bit of information. And the biggest reason that I wanted to talk to you about it is that going forward, 1 week at a time, I'm hoping to bring out an episode of Portrait Artist Reacts. And I want to sit here and watch the series with you. Series 2 of Portrait Artist of the Year Australia. We can talk about the episodes, we can talk about each of the artists, I can pause and Google the artists and we can have a look at their Instagrams and things like that and see what work they do normally. We can talk about the different artistic techniques they're using beyond just a sentence naming it and things like that. And yeah, have a bit of fun digesting the show and picking it apart and enjoying it together in the studio. So thank you so much for joining me today for this brief overview. If you've got any questions, please fire away in the comments below, and absolutely hit subscribe here on YouTube so that you can watch along with me week after week while we watch season 2 of Portrait Artist of the Year Australia. I'm so excited. I'm hoping this will be a really fun series, and if you enjoy it as much as I'm sure I will, we can always go back and watch season 1 later. Okay? All right. Have a great day, and don't forget to wash your brushes. Bye. I don't know if I need a disclaimer, but obviously Portrait Artist Reacts is in no way affiliated with ABC Australia or Endemol Shine. This is simply me in my studio wanting to be a nerd about this art TV show I love to watch, and wanting to be a nerd with you, my viewers, who also like to nerd out about art things. And I am super, super excited to be able to do this together. But ultimately, incredibly wholesome, can I just say. Part of the reason I think I love watching this show while I'm painting is because it is wholesome and it doesn't have some of that toothy drama that other reality series tend to have, of the real sort of tension. Like, I watched Ink Master back in the day and I almost watched it on mute for a while because I just wanted to see the cool tattoo art without all the drama. Can someone bring out a wholesome tattoo show? That'd be great. Side note, while we're talking about cool, creative reality TV, sound off in the comments your favourite series, and if you have a series that you think I haven't heard about. I've watched Great Pottery Throwdown, love it. I've watched the blow one, which is the glass blowing one. That one's awesome. Blown Away? I think that's what it's called. Yeah. I've watched the teeny tiny dollhouse building one in the UK with Sandy Toksvig. That one was amazing. I've watched... what else have I watched? Great British Knitting Bee? No, it's not called that. Great British Sewing Bee, definitely. I think it's just Britain's greatest knitter. Contentious for season 1, but excited for season 2 to see what happens with it. We'll see about that. Also love Aspen's videos about that series. You can go have a look at that one. What other ones? Brain. Face Off for special effects makeup, although that one also does get dramery sometimes. Obviously, Project Runway. Used to watch that back in the day. Haven't watched it lately. Don't even know if it's still going. America's Next Top Model, Australia's Next Top Model, all the top models. Watched them back in the day. Not my thing anymore, particularly. They definitely sort of steered away from the models being able to be creative. RuPaul's Drag Race, used to watch that back in the day. Kind of fallen off the horse a bit. I know there's a lot of other drag creative shows. Tell me if there's other good ones I should be watching. There was one that was kind of gothy themed, and I don't know what that one is. Should I try that? Tell me about all the shows. I want to learn all the things. I want to know if there's one for people who make lace, or one for people who like make things out of, I don't know, do we need like a sculptor's one specifically? Obviously, Landscape Artist of the Year is another show which is on the same format, but it's landscape. Australia, we need a Landscape Artist of the Year. Okay, I could rant about this all day. This is why this is in the end card, because I could just talk about this all day. And this is obviously why we're doing this series. Okay, I should paint something. Okay, I'm gonna paint something, and then I'll see you soon. Okay, first episode comes out this Sunday. Video shortly afterwards. Yeah.